we're going to discuss the culturally collapsing West, because if there's one thing we may as well talk about, it's how things are just embarrassing in the public eye at the moment. I mean, you said you didn't watch the news or discussion shows, and I don't blame you, because whenever you do, it's just gross and embarrassing. But before we start, if you'd like to support us, go over to lotus.com, sign up, and you can watch our premium analysis of Matt Walsh's documentary film, What is a Woman?
Oh, I'd love to see. Is it good?
It's very good. And so I actually had to sign up to the Daily Wire to be able to watch this, and that's why I've done an analysis of it. But Harry and I go through the very revealing responses that the people Matt Walsh is interviewing provide him. Because, Matt, when you're having a one-on-one conversation, it's difficult to give like a second-order analysis of what's being said in the moment, because often he didn't know what was going to be said. And so, like, they'd say something, you could see him be like, wow, that's crazy, you know. And so what we've had the time to do, thankfully, is sit there, go through it and be like, right, this is what she's saying. Like one of the most interesting ones was when one of the women said to him, when Matt Walsh was saying, well, look, if a chicken lays an egg, that's a female chicken. That's, you know, I don't need to know what the chicken identifies as. And she literally says, well, no, you do need to know how the chicken self-identifies. And isn't that absurd to be able to call it a female chicken, right? But isn't that? Yeah. But then you can see the level of reality that they think truth operates on. It operates purely in our own heads. There is no objective reality. So that you can see the locus of importance to these people is within our own opinions alone. There's nothing objective or anything like that. And so anyway, there's a lot more to it, obviously, but it's a very good video. I think you'll appreciate the analysis. Anyway, let's talk about J.K. Rowling very briefly. The worst
what's
person
she gone
in
and
Britain.
done now?
She retweeted and in fact, she didn't even do it actually. But one of the Twitter accounts for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is a play that she's written, promoted Pride Month with the Pride flag, and the trans rights activists were very angry about this.
Well, in terms of Pride Month, why is there a Pride Month now? I mean, for God's sake, you know. What does this even mean anymore? But so what is it she actually said? But
she didn't actually say anything, but because this is attached to her name, all of these people were furious. Absolutely. You can scroll down a bit, you can see the tweet, and you can see how just angry all of these people are. There we go. So that was, and you can say, oh no, you're using our flag, but you're the Harry Potter franchise, and J.K. Rowling doesn't think that someone who is born male is a woman. And therefore, everyone's furious about it. It's just small, pathetic things. But this goes to show you where the locus of our civilization is in this absolute ridiculous nonsense that happens on things like this. Whereas we've got real problems up and down the country, but no one cares.
I think a lot of people.
Well, okay, no one in the positions of authority.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I'm not trying to pick you up on anything. No, look, I look at this two ways. On the one hand, from two different angles. On the one hand, you've got your whole, as you say, this whole chicken, self-identifying chicken. This is pure Alice in Wonderland, right? It is. Oh yeah. It's madness. Oh, yeah. It is a form of. Who was it said? Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. You would know that, being a classical historian.
Someone we're not allowed to talk about, I believe.
And but basically, on the one hand, you've got your good old friend postmodernism, 1960s, where truth is what you want it to be, all of that, right? That's filtered down finally to much lesser brains. Not that they were even great brains, actually. I think we're discovering that. But I firmly believe this, is that the people who push this kind of stuff, whether it is the gender argument, all of these, the woke arguments, the woke ideology, people on, if you like, my side of the argument, often they try to reason, they argue, say, how can you agree with that and not that? You know, that's hypocritical. And they get worked up. I think it's better to understand that these people actually just want to strike at the heart of every received tradition, right down to actually how you perceive yourself. And if you can no longer even say with certainty or even without embarrassment what sex you are, that you believe in sex, then they have sort of won, or they are, if you like, really showing success, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think, but the point behind it is you've got to look at the motive. And I would say that whether it's the rewriting of our history, whether it's the 1619 Project in America, whether it is gender ideology. This is a form of...
it's a cultural attack.
It's an attack which is broadly on the West, and this is why it's particularly strong in Anglospheric countries like ours, particularly in America, which has been heartbreaking actually for me to watch, because I've always adored America, and it's had a huge impact on me. But it's obviously all the stuff that Douglas Murray has talked about in the War on the West.
This is a specifically culturally curated attack on the English-speaking world as well.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It is entirely to completely sort of try to destroy your sense of what you are,
Yes.
right down to your actual self. And so that is what is behind this. I would say, of course, people look and think, well, actually, isn't this like the Roman Empire and this kind of craziness? I have far more hope, actually. I mean, I don't want people to despair, simply because two things, one very local and one not. We had Brexit, we left the EU. If you had said, when people say, how do we get off? How's it going to change? If you had said 10 years, even 10 years ago, 2012, that we would not be within the EU anymore, technically, then basically they would have thought you were a nutcase. I mean, really, people did think you were kind of crazy. Similarly, I grew up in the 1970s, which is having a bit of a moment at the moment, mainly because of the Jubilee and the various strikes and everything. We were the sick man of Europe, but also people thought we were seriously finished, right? Just finished, absolutely gone as a country. And whatever you think of her, and let's go on, that's for another time, by within 10 years, that had entirely changed. So
I don't have any hard feelings towards Thatcher at all.
well, no, but I mean, because some people, are more equivocal about it, shall we say?
Yeah.
But whatever it might be, is that things do change. Things come along. Things do change. Thatcher came along, right? Okay, you might not agree with all of our economic policies, but the state of Britain in 1989 was not the same as 1979. Right? Similarly with Brexit, these things change. As Melanie Phillips once said, the 18th century became the extraordinary buttoned-up 19th century. How can you go from a period of relative looseness to suddenly this bourgeois kind of uptightness? But somehow it happened. So I think that, we have, however, at the same time, I just would give one plug, if I may.
Yeah,
the NCF, New Culture Forum, is making a series called The West. It's a 6-part series. We're filming it at the moment. It's going to be out later this year. The point being, Carl, it's a bit like you do here. Too many people don't know what it is that they actually are meant to be fighting for. Yeah. They do not know, and it's not their fault. They haven't been told. All they've been told is negative things. So we think that what we've got to do is say, look, this is how it came to pass, and basically this is why it is a wonderful thing, and this is why we have to defend it.
Well, unfortunately, you're not going to find many defenders in, say, the Welsh Assembly. Moving on, just to the next thing that just embarrasses everyone. So the Welsh Assembly, Mark Drakeford's the premier there, is trans women are women. So the very progressive position. He was widely applauded by trans activists because of this. He doesn't care that this is damaging women's sports. This was one of the Tories in the Welsh Assembly said, we know the huge benefits that sports can offer, but we're a bit worried about erasure of women in sport because of trans athletes. How do you feel? And he was just like, well, trans women are women. What now? It's like, really? Okay. Then women's sports are over. All right. Okay. Well, don't worry about that.
With this, I would say that the one thing that worries me is that more women don't protest about it. I know that some do, and
a fair number are actually.
A fair number
nowadays.
But are women in general aware enough of what is actually happening?
I should hope so, because
yes, I would.
In one of the things in Matt Walsh's documentary that's very good is he interviews some of the ladies who are defeated by the transgender athletes and saying, well, okay, how does this make you feel? And they're like, well, it makes it rather pointless for me to have done any training whatsoever, because physically I don't have the bone structure, the breadth, the length of muscle to be able to compete. And what was the Leah Thomas, I think it was Thompson, the swimmer. And you saw the picture of the girls jumping into the pool, and then Leah is just almost, horizontal.
Absolutely.
And you can see the power differential there. And it's like, look, there's no amount of training that will allow those girls to beat his record or her record. Sorry. And so it's very demoralizing for the female athletes, and I can completely understand, because it's literally like physically impossible for them to reach the sort of standards these men are capable of. And so why is that? That's not fair, is it? But of course, Mark Drakeford thinks so. Did you see the Pride 50p that our country is now enjoying?
No.
Would you like to see it? Isn't that just disgusting? Isn't that just the most disgusting thing you've ever seen? Like, not only is it like, the LGBT, at some point, I'll have to sit down and explain to you how we know this is a communist assault on our culture. This is openly communist assaults. I'll explain to you in detail one day if you like, because I've had to go through and read all of these papers and trace the genealogy of this. But notice how they've got the transgender chevron and then racial chevron, as if black and brown people can't be gay or transgender like everyone else. They have to be something different. So this is a segregationist coin. You don't get to have the gay people or the trans people or the black people to stand together. They've got to stand apart. That's what the UK is currently celebrating.
I think, it's just like the in schools you get the rainbow staircases, and obviously where I used to live in Woolwich in London, we had the crossings, road crossings and things. For goodness sake, what I find extraordinary about this is that at the time when there has never been less discrimination, not just even no discrimination, but positive celebration. It is expanding and expanding, and this is interesting actually, because it requires a pretty concerted effort to do this. As you say, you're talking about the coinage. And yet at the very time, I'd say same with racism, when there has never been less actually in countries like Britain. And yet somehow all of this is being pushed as though we are facing a particular crisis on this front. It's absurd. It's utterly absurd.
It's also very concocted. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Norwich FC got Pride Month support. They actually got a backlash for this. I've actually got a few links at the end of this segment, John, that I forgot to tell you about. Oh, yeah. So, you might want to pull those up in a minute. But this was hilarious, because Norwich FC thought, we'll be very trans and Pride inclusive, and they ended up getting chewed out because they included a bunch of words that weren't actually offensive, like twink on there. That's not offensive.
A new homophobic slur has apparently
dropped and that's twink.
Carl, I'm gay, for goodness sake. Twink's been used in everyday language.
Norwich FC didn't realise this, and so what they'd created here is a wall of slurs that gay people have been called in order to try and shame people for using it. Like, you kick like a girl, you're a dyke, you're a fairy, you're a twink, whatever. And it's like, right, okay, I can see why you did that, but that got a massive backlash against Pride Canaries, a Norwich City FC's LGBTQ plus fan group, who said, well, hang on a second, you've platformed offensive language against the gay community here. Why'd you do that? And so in their attempt to be good, they have been beaten with the homophobic stick. So there's no winning, and that's the point. But this is the whole point of this. Look, there's just this general collapse of our culture into this nonsense. It's just everywhere, and there's nowhere else to go. Like, Texas is thinking, well, maybe we should ban child drag shows. It's like, maybe. It's a proposition. Maybe.
This is like small kids being taken to drag.
Yes.
Drag I see, yeah.
Yes, small kids being taken to sexualized adult shows. And one Texas lawmaker's like, maybe that shouldn't be allowed, guys. So, you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a small thing, isn't it? Just
I would say that most people would agree with them not being taken.
I can't believe it's not already illegal.
Yeah.
Like, how is it different to, taking them to any other adult venue? Where, someone's doing something adult. I mean, you can't tell me this is
hopelessly confusing to kids. I mean,
unbelievable.
It is just, there was a particularly, you must have covered it, not drag, but there was a kind of happy clappy sex education show that actually finally bit the dust. It wasn't
really?
seen. Yes, it was Arts Council funded,
Of course it was.
and it was a big thing on Twitter, and it was basically it actually had full frontal nudity in it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
And actually, there was such outrage that in fact it didn't go ahead in the end.
Yeah, but there's plenty of this, and thankfully, Texas is leading the way, thinking about preventing children from being debauched by drag queens. The next sign of the times is Ben and Jerry's coming out and telling us that actually maybe we need to interfere with the UK government's plan to process refugees in Rwanda. Ben and Jerry's, the ice cream manufacturer. But they listen up, folks. We need to talk about the ugly Rwanda plan and what this means. Well, how is it your business to start with? But if we go down to the last tweet in this thread, John, you can see that what they've done is try to agitate people against the UK government. They say it doesn't need to be this way. There are simple steps the Gov could take right now to enable people to rebuild their lives in safety. It's not too late to stand with refugees and fight against these inhumane plans. Check out this thread from whoever this is, JCWI, to take action now. So they're actively calling on people to go and protest against government policy in the United Kingdom.
But the thing is, though, you see, Carl, about this is that people have got some power in the situation, actually. They should boycott, they should just not buy their ice cream. I mean, I know that some people say, oh, that's not enough. Well, actually, it can be.
It can be, yeah.
Because Gillette found out the hard way.
Yeah.
When they did that famous ad, which basically was suggesting that all men were just barbarian,
Predators.
predators. And their share price dropped hugely because people just said, actually, you know what? If you think that about us and we're your customers, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And they changed sharpish. It can therefore work.
Yep.
So I would say that about Benja, all these other corporations. I mean, they're so disingenuous. They don't. They're just, it's window dressing mostly for them.
Unfortunately, it's not window dressing for Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's are a famously progressive company.
Oh, they were a couple of hippies, weren't they? I mean,
They
the original...
were, but I love this. Well, I don't love it. I hate it. But how dare they think they should be the ones trying to literally organise activists to prevent the deportation of illegal immigrants? It's disgusting.
Yes.
This is again another cultural fixture. Let's talk about Doctor Who. Did you see who the new Doctor Who was?
I don't. Is that gay?
Nukti Gatwa.
Right.
Don't know who he is. Just apparently he's Scottish. Didn't know that. But he's most known for his role in Netflix's series Sex Education, where his character is exuberant, sassy, and loyal to the main character, which is fascinating. So that's the new Doctor Who. Should we listen to one of the old Doctor Who's? See what they think. Now, this is Christopher Eccleston, who says that he's over. Straight male actors like me are pariahs. So, well, you used to be Doctor Who, mate.
Yes, I saw this actually. The thing is, it was a bit confused. He seems to be saying in that interview that, and it's quite right that we are.
That's
Does he say
exactly
that?
what he says. He says, he says, quote, quite rightly, I'm a dinosaur now. I'm white, I'm middle-aged, I'm male, and I'm straight. We're all seen through the lens of Harvey Weinstein.
Well, no, we're not.
I shouldn't think so.
No, and also, what kind of mentality is actually going to say that about yourself?
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
actually going to say, and quite right, that we are, basically over.
I mean, he says, I
Get
can
a
feel
life.
the opportunity shrinking, and they should do. Why would you be so... Just what?
Self-hating.
It is absolutely self-hatred. It's like, well, who has done this to you? Why is it right that you, as a white man, should suffer?
Yeah.
Like, who has done this to you? But, I mean,
we all know the kind of, the sort of basic targets of woke ideology and cultural onslaught. But to actually sort of say, yes, and
I'm in favour.
Yes, and I'm favourite, and I am actually the problem, and you, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And don't be such a narcissist, actually.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, you credit yourself far too
Yes,
much there,
exactly.
Christopher, I'm afraid.
Yes.
But anyway, I mean, I can't believe you would see someone like, yeah, well, I'm actually happy my career's dying because I was born in the wrong body, is basically what he's saying there. But I mean, this is just our culture dying in front of our eyes, where they're debauching children. But at least we've got a culture to replace it. You familiar with drill?
Drill. Now, I don't know any drill. Sorry about this.
Don't worry, I don't know.
I don't know any drill music. Do they actually have songs in, or is it just like a...
I don't know. I only ever hear about drill musicians when they get arrested for threatening the police.
Isn't it kind of quite it's an aggressive form of rap?
It's very aggressive. Very aggressive.
Okay.
It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this is interesting. For some reason, they were a recording studio, and there was the shooting in Woolwich, and then they threatened the police with the guns. It's like, right, so we're probably going to have to start arming up cops. That's a nice term for British culture, isn't it? That's what we want, isn't it? Armed police. Very nice.
And when did this happened quite recently, right?
Yeah, this happened yesterday. So, what's going on elsewhere in the West? Well, the mad tyrants in the EU, I'm sure you've seen this, desperate to get rid of the veto power of the member states of the European Union, so European superstate, unaccountable, unelected, and unstoppable. Glad we got out of that at least.
I think, though, actually, I've always thought this, that basically the EU is one of those events, I mentioned it earlier, where it actually collapses of its own accord.
Oh, I think so too.
I mean, I remember when we were campaigning, most of us at the time, honestly, did not think we were going to win.
No.
But I remember thinking, well, look, the one good thing is that this will implode. I'd be surprised if it's still around in 10 years. Well, I still think that, actually. I think that its irrelevance is becoming clearer and clearer.
Yeah, I mean, COVID did a great job of showing that the EU is not going to be fit for purpose.
Yes, exactly.
But the final thing, again, no particular rhyme or reason, but it's just the direction of the West. You've got, Pete did have a link for me, but he didn't send me it in time for the podcast. But apparently, the average child now, when they reach the age of 18, they've seen something like 100,000 porn images.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you get celebrities like this one, Billie Eilish, saying, well, look, when I was a child, porn destroyed my brain. She says, I think porn, as a woman, I think porn is a disgrace. I used to watch a lot of porn, to be honest. I started watching porn when I was 11. I didn't understand why it was a bad thing. I thought it was how you learned to have sex. I was an advocate. I thought I'd be one of the guys and talk about it and thought I was cool for not having a problem with it. I think it really destroyed my brain, and I felt incredibly devastated I was exposed to so much porn. Well, how did you get the porn? Well, through your phone.
Yeah. Did she say actually that she thought it was a good thing that she stood up for it? Was she saying that?
She thought she was cool for not having a problem with it. But and it's so right. So
I think it, it hasn't destroyed her brain. Actually, I mean,
if she can think like this, maybe not. But
but at the same time, I think that the effect it's all had, for example, on what people expect of their personal relations and indeed of sex now. Has actually had a very distorting effect. But the thing is I remember, God, when I was 12, we still didn't know. When I was 12, it was like 1973. We didn't know sort of what various things were sexually. Maybe I was a bit behind the times even then. I don't think so. Whereas now, by then, kids have seen actually seriously hardcore.
Oh yes.
Images.
Oh yes. Really, really extreme things. This is the one, children exposed to shocking number of naked images, experts are warning. And it's like, so have we got the number in there? 10,000 naked images, sorry, not 100,000. But then that's still a lot.
But Carl, how do you, you got 3 children?
I have 3 children.
So how do you deal with this with your kids?
I don't let them have mobile phones.
Simple as that.
Like my 12-year-old daughter has a mobile phone, and she regularly loses it for just logging on something like TikTok. And I take absolute pleasure in taking the phone away from her for a week. Because she's always happier when she doesn't have it. And my wife just every night goes through the phone history. She goes through everything she's looked on. She can't delete any of it either because there's some parental apps or something. And so this is how we know exactly what she's doing. But I've told my wife, in fact, I would just like to take it away from her permanently. But my wife won't have it because she wants her to be able to phone. But it's like, okay, well, we'll get her a phone that doesn't have internet access.
Well, can't she just have a phone, not a smartphone?
Well, that's what I've been arguing. But and also we've had to just limit the amount of time she can spend on her laptop to 1 hour a night in the living room with us, just because. I mean, if you were a 12-year-old and you had access to the internet, you'd go wherever you wanted as well. I'm not blaming the kids for doing it. It's the adults for allowing them. And so basically with my sons, they're just not getting phones. My oldest son is 7. My youngest is 18 months. So it's not a problem at the moment. But they're just not getting phones. I'm just not having it. You know, it's absolutely not.
I think it's the same with my niece. She's got 4 kids, all very young. They don't even have any screens.
Yeah.
I mean, of any sort.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, a lot of the kids now have like iPad screens.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff, don't they?
No, my kids don't have access to iPads. My son used to be able to play computer games with me at the weekend, but he was naughty recently and stole something, so he can't have access to those anymore. So now I have to play a lot of football. But anyway, so that's well, don't worry, I enjoy playing football with him, but it's tiring. Yeah. But anyway, that's the general. Just the state of the West is just gross. I can't stand the current culture that we have. But anyway, let's get to a few comments before we end. Longshank says, I can't catch the podcast today, but I want to say thank you to Peter and the New Culture Forum for all the work they've done in trying to fight back against all the forces that are such a threat to our civilization, of holding the very confused pro-LGBT Muslim mayor of London to account while in the assembly.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ross says, glad you finally got Peter on. Well, look, I was trying to get him on before. One of the last...
Remember that?
one of the last true politicians, willing to have and show principles and fight for them, whilst also remaining polite and willing to listen to opposing arguments. That's very nice. Severian, says the similarities in the behaviour of Muslims and leftists prove that leftism is a cult. Keith says, apparently the threat of terror and racial hypersensitivity has turned our establishment into... I'm not going to say that, so... It's a bit of a spicy comment. But he also says, if they want to go along with the "I have a right not to be offended" line, well, damn well cite more people who are offended by the Whitechapel Underground Station having its name boards changed to Bangladeshi.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes,
I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
Could not believe it. I grew up in Germany, and you knew when you were in the English-speaking colony because the signs were in English. You knew when you were in Germany because the signs were in German. If the signs were just in English in the German-speaking areas, I would think they'd been conquered. I mean, they had been conquered, which is why.
But this is one of the kind of great, to use that phrase again, cognitive dissonance. Is that people would put that up in the kind of name of multiculturalism. If anything, it shows that actually it's not multiculturalism. It's a form of monoculturalism, just operating in one area here and another area here and another area here.
I honestly can't not describe them as colonies. They look just like colonies to me. And I grew up on colonies. You don't want colonies in your country. And the reason we had a colony in Germany is because they lost a war. And we don't have it anymore. But anyway, Ross says, I now live back in a small village after a time in Manchester. The community spirit and care of others has made me happier, even though modern amenities are very lacking.
Can I just say, without wishing to, I don't know what your view on the whole Jubilee and things was.
Yeah.
But it was like a form of social therapy in the sense that for 4 days, if you stayed off Twitter and all of that, which most people are not on, it was a happy and communal time. Something bigger outside. I don't know whether you're monarchist or Republican, Carl, or whether you even give it a thought. I'm a strong monarchist. But it was extraordinary, and it was utterly unforced. People had to go to the council. They had to get their road closed. They had to bother enough to do that, and they did it in so many numbers that I found it very, very moving, actually.
I mean, I'm not a monarchist or a Republican. I don't have a particular. I mean, I don't want a republic because I don't like the way that republics tend to function, and I'm not a revolutionary.
So you're an absolute monarchist, maybe? You want an absolute monarch?
No. A constitutional monarchy is what I'm happy with because it's the English tradition. But I can't help but see it as being the end of the purpose of Britain. It began as an empire. It had a very good run, but now it seems a bit hollowed out to me and sad. And this seems like the last big hurrah, the last big time that everyone's going to come together and have a genuine fountain of emotion. Because I don't see the sort of thing happening under Charles or anything like that.
No, but I mean, again, I'm going to kind of pull age rank on you here. In 1977, when you had the Silver Jubilee, people said, well, this will be the last, this is going to fade away. this will be the last. Golden Jubilee, same thing. That actual phrase was used, the last hurrah.
But I don't think she'll last to another.
Oh, no, she won't. But
so
I think the way in which allegiance, strange enough, is transferred is quite surprising. I understand. I get it. It's a particular case. We're never going to have a Platinum Jubilee again. I think the point is really, and this is crucial, and another reason to be cheerful and to hopeful, is that when people, whether you are, believe it or not, when they were doing these street parties, when they were planning them and putting up flags and things, it did not occur to any of them that there was anything odd about the Union Jack. And we've, after 2.5 years of continued assault on the very idea of it, that I think was one of the most remarkable things. Everywhere you looked,
it was lovely to see a lot of Union Jacks around. When I was campaigning for UKIP, we went over to Gibraltar, me and Callum, and it was lovely to see so many Union Jacks around. Like, you never see it like here. And we're just driving around, and it's just everywhere Union Jacks. And it's like, this is normal for these people, whereas it's utterly alien for people in Britain. And so seeing all the bunting about the Jubilee reminded me of being in Gibraltar, because it was very much like, oh my God, it could be like this every day.
Yes.
But it's not, and unfortunately I don't think it will become that way.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters, you can become a member and find all of our premium content on lotuseaters.com, including the latest article from John Wheatley, Queen Elizabeth the Silent, which also includes an audio track for all of our silver members and above. If you're interested in following John on social media, you can find him on Getter at John Wheatley. Thank you and goodbye.